We're going to spell it out now, but first we're going to do an optional slip stitch border around our oval. So with your bee hook, and I'm using my background color from my flag, make a slip knot and pull up from behind your oval up through right at the bottom of the stitches from your scalloped border. Go into the next stitch and pull up a slip stitch and continue that all the way around. You can use any color that you think would look nice here. I use this technique on lots of projects where I want to add a subtle little detail. As you can tell though, if I would have chosen a brighter color, it would have really popped. Continue all the way around until you come back to the first stitch that you had pulled up that slip knot. And once you do that last slip stitch, you will cut a length of yarn and then pull it up through that slip stitch. Then grab a yarn needle and thread it, and you're going to go right between the slip stitch strands and push that tail straight through, and it gives almost an invisible join. Next, for the lettering, it will be something you've done before. It's the Romanian Point Lace. I'm using a E-hook and my color 3. Start by doing a chain 2. This is just review. Yarn over and pull up a loop till you have 2 loops on. Yarn over and pull through both loops. The first clockwise turn, you'll go under 1 strand, yarn over, pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through both of those loops. Turn your work clockwise. This time you'll have the 2 strands to go in. From here on, there'll be the 2 strands until you have the length of the cording that you will need to make your letter. Continue doing this, and I will show you how to lay out your letter. And just like beginning any small project in crochet, the first little part's the most difficult, but I wanted to remind you while you're doing the cording to make sure that you're not doing it too tight. You shouldn't have to work too hard to get into those 2 strands. It gets a little bit easier when your cording gets a little bit longer. You want to continue until you get a length long enough to make a letter. That being said, some letter choices that you can make are in the calligraphy fonts that you can find on Pinterest or Google Image. Once you have a length that you think is long enough for a letter, go ahead and lay it out. I started with the O. It was easier than the others. You can add a swirly like I did here. Make cording to complete a J and a Y. And if your cording is not quite long enough, go ahead and do a few more stitches until it is the correct length. To finish the cording off, you'll go ahead and go under those 2 loops and then pull through as a slip stitch through all 3 of the loops. Go on, turn clockwise and go under 2 and slip stitch. This time you'll only have 1 strand to go under. Yarn over and pull through as a slip stitch. And last time go under 1 strand and pull through as a slip stitch. Chain 1 and cut a length of yarn. You're going to be using this to sew your letter down, so get a decent length of yarn and pull your tail through. I wanted to let you know, if you happen to be a cross stitcher, the Tunisian oval makes the little holes so you could do cross stitching fairly easily. Here are my letters laid out, pretty simple. And once you have them laid out and the lengths you need for the cording, pin them into place. Grab your yarn needle and thread your tail. I'm just showing you that you cross over here, and when you sew it down, it will flatten out a little bit. But go ahead and lay down that end piece where it will stay, and then go straight through the Tunisian oval. Come up through the back side, and remember your cording has kind of a hollow center. So what we're going to do is go up through the Tunisian oval and go through the hollow center of the cording. Try not to get the strand on top of the cording and pull that through. And then for this where it overlaps, I'm actually going to try and go up through the cording that is overlapped and grab just a little piece of the back of the top layer, making sure my needle stays in the hollow part of the cording, and then push it back through. You can take shorter stitches than I did. I took pretty long ones. I found that when I did the long ones, it didn't flatten the cording out too much, so it still gave it a raised effect and kept it from looking smushed. Continue around the whole length of the cording. It's important on the curves of the letters to make sure to get the outermost curve so that it will pull out to the curve instead of getting the inner part curve where it'll kind of curl into it, if that makes sense. If you didn't happen to leave a long enough tail to sew on your entire letter, you can go ahead and leave it towards the back, get another length of yarn to continue sewing, and just square knot it in the back. These ovals are going to be sewn down to our stars, so the backs of the ovals will not show. So you can do that square knot and leave a little bit of a tail, and you won't even see it. Make sure to pull the other end of the cording's tail through, and you can also use it to sew down if need be. And here's the finished Y. Go ahead and leave any tails from the slip stitch detail and from the letters. We can use any tails to sew the oval down to the star. So I guess I'm telling you, you do not need to weave in your ends yet. And next I just wanted to show you what I was talking about earlier. If you run out of a length of yarn for sewing, this is where I tied a square knot at the back to add an extra length of yarn to finish completing the letter. Just trim the tails. Like I said, they'll be in the back. We're sewing it to the star, so these will not show. I can't believe we are almost finished. Next week we'll be making a trim piece to go across the tops of all of the flags, and then week 13 we will put it all together and we will be finished. There is one more week, and it's a thank you.